Hello and welcome. My name is Alexa Oliva, and today we bring you Who Goes Social, Who to Know, and Where to Go. WGS Studio Talks. And today we have the lovely Joan Godoy and Fernando Torres here from Radical Partners. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
So we wanted to invite you guys on here because Radical Partners, let's just start off with the name.
Yeah.
Like, why did you go with such a radical name for a business that's so serious?
Yeah, it's interesting. People always ask us, but I always like to go back to the dictionary, right? And when you look at the word radical, it doesn't have that political meaning that most of us think. It's about when we need like definitive change, right? When we need something that's rapid, that's drastic, and that's sustainable. So that's how we like to move around doing things when it comes to social impact. And then the word partners, right? We don't do anything by ourselves when it comes to transforming the world and trying to solve for the biggest challenges that we have in Miami and beyond. We need a lot of people. Therefore, we are Radical Partners. We have Radical Partners as we all accelerate change.
That's awesome. And so you're the CEO and founder of Radical Partners.
I am not the founder. I took over the CEO role in 2020 from Rebecca Fishman-Lipsey, who's now the president and CEO at the Miami Foundation. So it's only been two of us at the helm of the organization. And now we are a growing team of 11 Radical Partners that are doing or getting in good trouble here and beyond.
So, Fernando, tell us about the trouble you're getting into and what you do for Radical Partners.
Absolutely. I'd love to. So I'm the special projects manager, and I work essentially in the consulting arm where we co-design solutions with different partners throughout Miami and beyond. And essentially, folks come to us either looking for one of two things, either building capacity, which would be learning to do a specific thing, have it be budgeting, project planning, whatnot, or we lend capacity when is that they actually hire us to run a specific project from designing, implementation, all the way to impact measurement. So the trouble I'm going to get into soon is I'm very excited for it is Give Miami Day. We're building out a capacity building arc to level up the fundraising strategy for the nonprofits in Miami and, hopefully be able to increase our the donations. Last year was really cool. We were able to collectively fundraise $34 million. Folks who participated in our capacity building arc increased their donations by, I forget the exact number, it was around 45%. So it was a very good outcome from the capacity building. And we're excited to see the numbers for this time around.
Oh, wow. Anything I can do to help that capacity growth, we're here, including, whatever we can do in the studios to help some of these important causes that you guys are associating yourselves with. And we honor that you do that. We're excited that people have big hearts like you guys do to really make an impact in our communities around the world. Thank you for that. But let's talk about you, Joan, for a moment. Tell us what your background is. How did you get involved in such an important area?
I'm happy to share. I'll start by saying, because we don't know who's going to be watching this or listening to this podcast, by clarifying what Radical Partners really is, right? And yes, we do budgeting and fundraising and project management, but we only play with people that want to transform the community that they're in. So that could be an environmental project, that could be a gender equity project, that could be trying to provide a better life for the animals living on the street. Like, it has to do with community for us to be involved. So the way we accelerate impact today is by investing in leaders who are doing that work, engaging locals around the issues that are affecting us all, co-creating solutions, as Fernando was saying, and building coalitions. When you ask people mostly about Radical Partners, they always think that we're bringing people together, that we're making meaningful connections, because we truly try to strengthen communities for them to strengthen each other. So that brings me back to my background, because being from Guatemala, this very tiny country in Central America, really shaped who I am and what I do. And Guatemala, for those of you who have been, can testify to the fact that it is a small but mighty country with a lot of colors in every single sense. Colors in its fabrics, colors in its biodiversity, colors in its people, and colors in the different types of power or access that we all have. So I grew up very close to those differences, and how a lot of people have a lot and several people have too little. And I then decided to study psychology, mostly on the community or social aspect of it. So since a very young age, I started volunteering for smaller organizations, doing work mostly with rural communities in Guatemala, studied psychology, started growing my career, then got a master's in international NGOs, right, to basically manage social impact organizations. And since then, I haven't really stopped. I lived in Costa Rica, I lived in the Netherlands, I lived in Chile, now in Miami. And I think that what summarizes it is like, how do we build effective leaders that are running efficient organizations for the benefit of everybody? So here I am 37 years later.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I hope our organization gets to be one of those. That's for sure. I was very impressed when I met you guys, and I said these are people that I would love to get to know better. Fernando, why don't you tell us the kind of companies or organizations that come to you and looking for help?
Absolutely. So as Joan was mentioning, we see all sorts of folks come to us. Recently, we closed out a second cohort of what we called the Get Champions program, which goes for gender equity in tech. This was we were hired by Get Cities that worked for Second Muse and was essentially financed by the Melinda Gates Foundation. And they ran several cohorts in different parts of the country, and we were in charge of the Miami cohorts. So in the second program, we were able to engage 13 leaders in tech companies based out of Miami to essentially build up their capacity and their knowledge around gender equity and learn very actionable steps to implement policies and hiring best practices within their companies to, promote more participation or equity for women, trans, and non-binary individuals. And what was really cool about that is that we actually held what we call a talent connect. We're able to connect around 100 diverse candidates based out of Miami with these 13 companies, and there were several hiring processes that came from that. So that's one example of the folks that we collaborate with. The other big one is Give Miami Day. Now, there are over 1,000 organizations that are engaged during Give Miami Day. Last year, from those 1,000, we had close to 350 folks engaged with our specific workshops. And this is all sorts of folks. We see people working with mental health. We see people working with animal well-being. We had a lot of environmental organizations engaged as well. So I think that that's a really cool thing about Radical Partners is that we see all sorts of missions and people doing all kinds of cool work.
Thank you for sharing, Fernando. Joan, I have a question for you. What is one industry, community-based, that you have always wanted to work but haven't had the opportunity to work in?
I think environmental organizations. Funny enough, that's kind of how I started my career, right? My dad is an environmentalist, and that is in my core, but directly with Radical Partners, we haven't really engaged with a significant cohort or collective of environmental organizations, right? And it has always been important, but I feel like it is going to be more and more important in the future. And we find a lot of scientists and experts that are very clear on what needs to be done for certain things. But what we encounter with some of the organizations that Fernando was referring to is that we're not the best at managing projects, right? Because that's not what we learned. Most of us start doing the work out of passion, because we love the animals, because we love the trees, because we are underwater. But have you done a budget? Maybe not. Have you thought about how to run meetings for the coalition to be successful with elected leaders? Most of them haven't. So I think that is definitely an industry that we are passionate about, and it is going to be very important in the future, meaning next week.
So, Fernando, what kind of growth are you guys aiming at, getting accomplished this year for Radical Partners?
Well, we have very specific growth metrics that we want to reach with Give Miami Day with that project specifically. First off, we're looking to engage a whole lot more people in person. Last year's average was we held 3 in-person events, and the average was around close to 40. We're trying to get that up like closer to 60. So these events are localized in North, Central, and South Miami to bring the experience closer to where people are, are doing the work and implementing their missions. So throughout those capacity building workshops is that we saw this increment of this average of 45% increment in fundraising. So personally, and also for Radical Partners, we're looking to grow those numbers this time around, because we've been seeing some challenges with the economy and the political landscape, and that, there are big context situations that represent a challenge for the social impact community. But we are determined to see everyone succeed and really level up their companies and their impact as well. So that's...
And that includes us, because we also fundraise for Give Miami Day, right? So we really strive to support all these social impact organizations, and everything that we know, we put it back into the community. But once in a while is also good for us to get that boost as well, right? So if anybody's listening and you're inclined to just boost the work of one organization specifically, including yours, you can, right? And Radical Partners is the place where you can go and learn about more than 200 organizations doing great work. But if you just can't pick, you can always choose Radical Partners as the organization that is going to pour love and strategy into hundreds of organizations that are doing work locally.
Amazing. You guys are doing amazing work.
Thank you, and likewise.
Oh, thank you. And we look forward to see what our relationships take us to, and I'm very excited to have you guys here. As a matter of fact, I did it on a weekend, which I normally don't come, but I was like, yes, whatever you want, Joan. It doesn't matter. But thank you so much, and continued success for everything that you're doing. Your involvement with the community is definitely how we got to know each other, and I'm very excited to see where it goes. Hope you guys do connect with Radical Partners. You can find them at radicalpartners.com.
Radical.partners.
Radical.partners.
Yes, because we're radical in that way. No .com.
Thank you for joining us, Joan, Fernando. Thank you so much. Again, my name is Alexa Oliva. WGS Studio Talks. Join us on our next one. And remember to live and live.